and today we are going to talk about Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. So I read Elantris for the first time recently to do the Crab Along 2021 along with Books Before Death and a couple other channels, and y'all, I really ended up enjoying this. I'm actually surprised at how much I loved Elantris. I went in kind of trepidatious because while I love Brandon Sanderson, obviously I have like 2 Sanderson shelves up there, I had heard so many things about, like, this was his very first published novel. It's not as good. Like, you can see the elements of him, but like obviously it's not as good and polished as he is now. And it tends to be a lot of people's least favorite Cosmere work. So I went in, like I said, a little trepidatious, but y'all, I ended up really liking this. It might be my least favorite Cosmere work so far, but like, it's still 5 stars. So is that really even saying anything? Like, it's my least favorite out of all the fantasticness, so take that as you will. Elantris is a standalone epic fantasy. Now, it is rumored to have a sequel coming out eventually at some point, but it's not really needed. Sanderson wrote this to where it is a beautiful standalone. You're not like, oh my god, where's my second book, like cliffhanger all these years later. No, you're perfectly happy with the ending. It's good. Like, you don't need more, but you can see yourself wanting more, if that makes sense. So just make sure you're aware of that. And this is, like I said, his debut. Now, he had written, I think, like 10 books before he got published at all. So this was like his 11th novel, but his first published novel. So he did have some practice. In this book, we follow 3 main characters, Serene, Raoden, and Hrathen. If I say those wrong, I'm sorry. That's what they sound like in my head. Raoden is the prince of this one kingdom. Serene is a princess from another kingdom, and Hrathen is this like really high up, almost like priest-like person from yet another kingdom, and they all come together in this one place to kind of make shit happen. I am the worst at giving synopsis, so I'm sorry. Serene is supposed to marry Raoden, though they have never met. They have communicated, but they've never met in person. This is an arranged political marriage. But before Serene can make it over across the ocean to where her betrothed lives, he dies. Kind of. He is actually taken by what they call the Shroud. The Shroud. Don't know how to say it. I didn't do the audiobook. This is how it sounds in my head. Which is kind of like this disease that can hit anybody at any time in this specific area, and it's kind of like leprosy mixed with being a zombie. So it's like zombie leprosy, but you don't eat brains. And because of that, he is swept away into the city of Elantris, which is kind of like bordering where he lives. Elantris used to be this beautiful grand city of the gods, but there was this event, and somehow everyone with these godlike Elantrian powers became infected with the Shroud, and it made them not only lose their powers, but it kind of made them, like I said, like living zombies. So they are now like walled up inside of this city and like forgotten. Like, no one wants to talk about it. It's really like hush hush, and like when somebody gets taken by it, like, you say they're dead. You don't say like, oh, they got the Shroud, they're in Elantris now. Like, nope, you just forget about them. You're like, they're dead. They had a whole ass funeral for Raoden. They told his betrothed that he's dead. So like, it's very hush hush, right? Well, she arrives, he's dead, she's still legally married to him. Like, that is in the contract. So she is now the wife of a dead prince. She is a widow to a man she's never met, and she has to like fulfill her princess duties. And Hrathen, the like priest, has come to this city to convert them because he believes in this religion, and that so staunchly he knows he needs to convert these people so he can save them. But the like whole plot behind that is if he doesn't convert them, he knows that like the head of his church is basically gonna come and like destroy everyone, and he doesn't want the bloodshed. So that's kind of the like main synopsis of Elantris. Hopefully that made sense, but probably it did not, because it's really confusing. Okay, you can definitely tell that this is one of Sanderson's early works. It has, like I said, all of the elements of a Sanderson Cosmere book, just kind of not as polished and refined. It even has the beloved Sanderland near the end where you're like, okay, oh my god, that ending. So I just absolutely loved it, because I was able to pick out those elements and see how he's grown from writing this to like Stormlight Archive. This book has a whole lot of political intrigue. That is the majority of this book, is politics and religion, which I absolutely love in my stories, and I think Sanderson does super well. A lot of his books hinge a lot on politics and religion, so I think that's a lot of why I gravitate towards his books, because I love it. Serene is just this super intelligent female who just knows what she wants and she goes for it, and she is politically savvy, and she's not going to let anyone control her or tell her what she can and cannot do, and I absolutely love that. She may kind of border on not like other girls, but not really. She's very typical in a way for her own kingdom. So she's tall and she's into politics, and she's still kind of an outcast within her own kingdom, but she's really an outcast in this new place that she's in, because women are seen as like meek and subservient, and she is definitely not that. But the girl does like a pretty dress, so she still likes to be girly, but she's gonna kick your ass in fencing. So like there's a really good balance with Serene, I think. I also really enjoyed finding the Cosmere Easter eggs, and there was only really like one that I noticed in this book, and I think a lot of that attributes to this being Sanderson's first book and the fact that I have not read the rest of Stormlight Archives. I am only on Oathbringer. I still need to read that, and I still need to read Rhythm of War. But I have heard that Rhythm of War has a lot of crossover with the world of Elantris. So that's also why I wanted to read it first, because people kept saying, you know, there's a lot of crossover. So I really am excited to see that, but I did notice at least one little world hopper goodness up in Elantris. I'd actually read an interview with Sanderson where he had talked about the Cosmere and getting Elantris published, and he knew that he wanted to create this big world, this Cosmere, but he wasn't really sure how to go about it, you know, with the publishing houses and stuff like that. So he made it very small at first, very Easter eggy, very like low key, and then he became the phenomenon he is, and he can basically do no wrong and like insert large Cosmere crossovers everywhere. I did really enjoy, like I said, the politics and the plot of this book. I really enjoyed all three of our main characters and seeing kind of their motivations and what they're doing to move the plot forward. There were a couple like little things that kind of weren't my favorite that made it not my favorite Cosmere. For one, the romance was a little cringy. Like, Sanderson is not a romance writer. It's not his shtick. He doesn't do a whole lot of romance, but the romance in this one specifically just seemed a little too fast. I think we get a lot of off-page, like, oh, they've been talking for 3 weeks now. And you're like, well, I didn't see none of this development. I saw no development between them meeting and them being massively in love. So it's like, I needed just a little bit in the middle, like just a little more time to develop a romantic relationship, but I still think the romantic relationship worked well. It's not like cringy, gross, like ew, but it just developed a little faster than I would have liked to have seen it. I also think the end was a little rushed, if that makes any sense. So we find out what is causing everything. We get, like, you know, the big reveal and the big fix, and it's like, oh, that was it. That was all it was. Like, that's that. So while I thought it was well done, I kind of wish it would have just been just a little bit more. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but it's like kind of lackluster when you're like, that was the issue. Like, this is what caused everything? Really? Okay. But it was really cool seeing everything at the end. I think the end of the book itself was really well done, and we get that like beautiful Sanderlanche of an ending where it's like, we're tooling along and we're tooling along and just everything just starts rolling and you're like, whoa, what is going on? There's some really good character development with all three of our characters, but specifically Hrathen. I really wanted more of him, actually. I really enjoyed getting in his head and seeing his character development. I think he had the most growth and development through the entirety of this book, and I would have loved to see just a little more of his backstory, I think. Raoden didn't change very much. Like, he didn't really need much growth. He was just good, right? I heard somebody say that he's like an undamaged Kelsier, which that kind of makes sense, right? Like, he's just this good guy that wants to do good things and help his people and be noble and be a good leader. And he kind of stays like that the entire time, which I think is actually really precious. And then Serene also didn't change too much from the beginning to the end. She got a little like more savvy and she learned more things, but her character didn't really arc and change. The only real like change and arc in characters we got was Hrathen, and I actually really enjoyed that. To me, like, not everyone needs to change. Not everyone needs to go from point A to point B and like that. Some people are just good people and they learn things. Then they don't have to be like, have these big realizations and change their entire lives. So I thought it was really well done. And like I said, I wanted to see more of Hrathen. The other little thing, and I just thought this was really cool, and it's kind of like a Cosmere crossover, and that is the seance in this book reminded me so much of Sprin from the Stormlight archives. And like I said, I am not super deep into the Cosmere. Like, there's websites and connections and like that meme with the guy with all the stuff. Like, there's that. And that's not me. I like just kind of see them and notice them and stuff like that. But they remind me a lot of one another. So I'm curious to see if there's like a connection there with the Spren and the Seance. Because they seem real similar, like cousins maybe, like they could be cousins. All right, so that was my kind of little chit chat review about Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. Hopefully you enjoyed this little weird review ranty video. It is definitely not like my other reviews, but I just kind of wanted to talk about it and not really review it. Just kind of give you my thoughts and feelings on Brandon Sanderson's debut book. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it, and if you've read more of the Cosmere than I have, like, let me know, like, yes, there's some more connections with Elantris, or like, no, there's not that much, because I feel like there's more, and I feel like I just haven't gotten to them yet. All right, well, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.